An earthquake with a magnitude of 8.8, which occurred on the 30th of July in Kamchatka, shook the entire world and ranked among the most powerful seismic events in the history of humanity. In this weekly review of climate-related disasters, we will examine what truly caused it and how events may unfold in the future. Seismic and volcanic activity. A powerful earthquake with a magnitude of 8.8, which occurred on the 30th of July in Russia off the coast of Kamchatka, triggered a sharp increase in seismic and volcanic activity on the peninsula. According to experts, the southern part of Kamchatka was literally shifted by almost 2 meters, and the region is being struck by aftershocks. Over the course of a week, more than 270 earthquakes with magnitudes from 5 and above were recorded here, including 26 particularly strong tremors with magnitudes of 6 and above. Against this backdrop, a rare and synchronous activation of volcanoes in the region occurred. Early in the morning on the 3rd of August, a powerful ash eruption began at the Krasheninnikov volcano, which had not shown activity for more than 500 years, with plumes rising to heights of up to 4 kilometers. Remarkably, it combined both summit and flank eruptions, a rare phenomenon that, according to experts, may indicate strong underground tremors within the volcanic cone. The eruption of Kluchevskoy, the highest active volcano in Eurasia, continues unabated. On the 5th of August, ash plumes reaching heights of up to 7 kilometers were recorded, while the ash cloud spread for almost 500 kilometers. Lava is flowing from the crater, and incandescent rock fragments, volcanic bombs, are shooting into the air with a roar, reaching heights of half a kilometer. Eruptions at the Shiveluch, Bezimiani, and Karimsky volcanoes continue, differing in type and level of activity. At Mutnovsky Sopka, a thermal anomaly has been detected, confirmed by satellite data. In connection with this, it has been assigned a yellow aviation danger code. At the Kambalny volcano, pronounced seismic activity has been observed, and at Avachinsky, steam and gas emissions are being recorded. Local authorities, together with the Ministry of Emergency Situations, have urged residents and tourists not to approach active volcanoes closer than 10 kilometers. The Lewotobi Laki-Laki volcano, located in Indonesia, erupted twice within a few hours. On the 1st of August, the volcano expelled incandescent pyroclastic material and an ash column approximately 10 kilometers high. During the eruption, flashes of volcanic lightning were observed. Less than 5 hours later, a second, even more powerful eruption occurred. The ash column rose to a height of up to 18 kilometers. Volcanic emissions spread in all directions up to 4 kilometers from the crater. Flames engulfing the summit accompanied both eruptions. The roar from the volcano was heard from a distance of about 20 kilometers. Local residents, upon hearing the powerful rumble, ran out into the streets in panic. According to their accounts, within just 10 minutes, rooftops were covered with a layer of ash, and a sharp smell of sulfur filled the air. A true rain of incandescent rock particles fell on several villages. Residents and tourists are being warned to stay at least 6 kilometers away from the crater. The head of the Center for Volcanology emphasized that eruptions of the Lewotobi Laki-Laki volcano are now occurring more rapidly. Whereas previously there were about 4 hours between seismic signs and an eruption, this interval has now been reduced to 2 hours, indicating a fast descent of magma. Similar processes are being observed at volcanoes around the world. Scientists note that hotter magma is rapidly rising to the surface, breaking through not only via magma chambers as before, but also directly from the mantle, from the deepest parts of the Earth. The causes of this process are explained in detail in the report on the progression of climate cataclysms on Earth and their catastrophic consequences. Australia. A severe hailstorm that struck on the 31st of July in the north of South Australia came as a complete surprise to local residents and tourists. In the region's arid and hot climate, such a natural phenomenon is a great rarity and a clear climatic anomaly. The hailstorm raged for about 1.5 hours, during which time the desert was covered with a layer of ice. The air temperature dropped to 0 degrees Celsius, highly unusual for the region, where at this time of year the minimum values usually remain around +8 degrees Celsius. In the state of New South Wales, extreme weather conditions were also recorded. On the 2nd of August, record-breaking snowfalls fell in the north of the region, with snow cover reaching up to 40 centimeters in some areas, for the first time in recorded history. The snowstorm caught residents off guard and disrupted transport. About 200 vehicles became trapped, some for several hours. Meteorologists note that the deviations from the norm concern both the amount of precipitation and the area affected by the snowfalls. On the mid-north coast, strong winds toppled trees and tore roofs off buildings. More than 32,000 homes and businesses were left without electricity. Floods, snowfalls, and icy conditions disrupted road and rail transport throughout the state. One person is reported missing. United Kingdom. The summer storm, Floris, which struck the northern regions of the United Kingdom on the 4th of August, turned out to be abnormally powerful for this time of year. Winds reached speeds of up to 160 kilometers per hour, and in the mountains of Scotland, up to 216 kilometers per hour. Such wind speeds are almost never recorded here in summer. Tens of thousands of homes were left without power, and the bad weather hampered restoration efforts. Helicopters had to be deployed. Hurricane-force winds toppled trees and power lines, blocking highways and bridges. Railway companies were forced to reduce train speeds, and in some sections to suspend service entirely. More than 150 flights were cancelled, and 2 aircraft that were unable to land in Aberdeen returned to their departure airports, flying about 1,500 kilometers in vain. Ferry services off the west coast of Scotland were disrupted, causing serious difficulties for both tourists and local residents. The Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo, held for 75 years, was cancelled for the first time in its history. China. Floods have once again swept through numerous provinces of China. According to official information, in late July, torrential rains and their consequences claimed the lives of no fewer than 75 people, including 44 in Beijing, where in just a few days rainfall nearly reached the annual total. The Miun district suffered more than any other area. Eyewitnesses reported that they did not receive timely warnings about the danger. Many realized what was happening only upon waking at around 4 to 5 in the morning, when the water was already knee-deep. The most tragic location was a nursing home, where the largest number of victims was recorded. The water rose above 2 meters, and many elderly people with limited mobility were unable to escape on their own. More than 80,000 people were evacuated from Beijing. Authorities admitted that existing disaster response plans proved insufficiently effective, and the capital's flood protection system has serious shortcomings. In addition to flooding, the heavy rains triggered landslides, cutting off suburban residents from the outside world. 136 villages were left without electricity. The disaster destroyed crops, inundated homes, and caused the mass death of poultry on farms. More than 300,000 people were affected by the floods and their aftermath. The deadly flood in Beijing once again demonstrated that traditional response mechanisms are becoming ineffective, even in countries with well-developed emergency services, organized and technically equipped, such as China. Peru. Since the 31st of July, several regions of Peru have been hit by a powerful sandstorm. Winds reaching speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour lifted thousands of tons of sand into the air, turning day into night. Visibility in the storm's epicenter dropped to 2 meters, completely paralyzing traffic. The Peruvian airline Corpac suspended flights over the Nazca Plateau geoglyphs. Seaports and markets were temporarily closed, and road traffic was restricted. One of the hardest hit sectors was tourism, vital for the local economy. In Huacachina, the region's main attraction, dune tours were cancelled, all paragliding flights were halted, and access to the lagoon was blocked. In Paracas National Park, winds reached 70 kilometers per hour, causing serious damage to the natural environment and infrastructure. In the provinces of Tacna and Arequipa, sand buried hundreds of hectares of corn ready for harvest, and in the Mayges district, Caloma province, the storm damaged rice fields, threatening the October and November harvests. The high concentration of dust and sand caused breathing problems, especially among children, the elderly, and people with chronic illnesses. This storm was the result of a rare combination of 2 wind types, descending and horizontal. Although such phenomena are common in Peru's desert regions, the scale and intensity of this storm were exceptional and uncharacteristic for this time of year. Russia. At the beginning of August, Russia has experienced a surge of extreme weather events. On the 31st of July, the town of Ternyauz, Kabardino-Balkaria, was hit by a powerful mudflow, the second within the last 10 days. Massive amounts of mud and stones rushed along the Gerkojansu riverbed. The main flow passed through the mud discharge chute, but the volumes of water and solid material were so large that tons of mud overflowed the channel and flooded nearby streets. The mudflow damaged a gas pipeline and power lines, leaving about 3,000 people without water. Residential houses and urban infrastructure were affected, and traffic on several roads was completely blocked. Over 1,000 people, including tourists from the Elbrus resort, were evacuated. On the 2nd of August, a rare natural phenomenon for Karelia was observed over Lake Ladoga, a waterspout. The funnel formed near the settlement of Ilyinsky and persisted for several minutes, moving along the shore. Such vortices usually form in tropical and subtropical latitudes, as their formation requires a combination of specific weather conditions. Such meteorological conditions were present in the region at the end of July. Air temperature exceeded the climate norm by 7 to 9 degrees, and the water in Lake Ladoga warmed to an abnormal plus 23 degrees Celsius. On the 3rd of August, a powerful tornado struck the Smidovitsky district of the Jewish Autonomous Region, an extremely rare event for this area. The strong vortex toppled several power line poles, leaving parts of settlements without electricity. On the 3rd of August, Krasnodar Krai was hit by heavy rains. In some areas, precipitation exceeded twice the monthly norm. The Tuapsinsky district suffered especially badly, where a state of emergency was declared. The rains caused a sharp rise in mountain river levels, resulting in flooding of houses and yards in several settlements. The floodwaters swept dozens of boats and yachts into the sea. As a result of the flood, a metal bridge over the Shapsuko River was destroyed in the village of Lermontovo. Approximately 300 houses were completely isolated. In the village of Defanovka, a bus carrying 25 workers fell into the river. Fortunately, all people were rescued. On the beach of the village of Agoy, a waterspout came ashore. The vortex lifted bungalows, deck chairs, and a catamaran, which then crashed into a shelter with vacationers. Fortunately, no one was injured. The rains triggered a mudslide onto the federal highway M4, Don. Traffic on the highway was temporarily stopped. Near the village of Fanagorieskoye, the Chepsy River overflowed its banks, causing the collapse of a span of the road bridge. As a result, 130 tourists were cut off from the shore and were evacuated. In the area of the village Shirokaya Shell, heavy rains washed away the tent camp of the All-Russian Children's Center, or Leonok. At the time, about 60 children and counselors were there. The water arrived rapidly, causing a brief panic, but everyone was promptly evacuated. There were no serious consequences, only minor bruises and abrasions. What we witness day after day, record-breaking floods, temperature anomalies, intensified winds, powerful storms, as well as increased seismic and volcanic activity, are all links in one chain, manifestations of a global process that our planet is currently undergoing. We have discussed this topic many times and will certainly return to it again. But today, about the most alarming. The mega-earthquake of magnitude 8.8 that occurred in Kamchatka is a clear sign of large-scale geodynamic changes, which the ALLATRA scientists have repeatedly warned about. This is not just another manifestation of the Pacific Ring of Fire activity, but the result of pressure from a giant magmatic plume, a flow of molten material rising from the depths of the Earth beneath Siberia, with its epicenter near Norilsk. The influence of this plume does not cause sharp local deformations of the Earth's crust in a single point, but provokes the overall uplift of the entire Siberian block, including the West Siberian Plate, the East Siberian Craton, and the Verkhoyansk-Chukotka folded system. This large-scale, albeit relatively slow process creates colossal stress along the edges of the continental block. Its outer boundaries literally swing, and it is in these zones that the most active geodynamic events are recorded. Such phenomena are called edge effects, and they are already being observed around the entire perimeter, from the Urals and Baikal to the Verkhoyansk range and the Kuril-Kamchatka region. And this is only the beginning. Therefore, the powerful earthquake in Kamchatka is not an end, but merely a starting point. The next catastrophe may erupt where it is least expected. However, a significant part of the scientific community, especially in Russia, continues to deny the obvious, assuring society that everything is under control. The media present their opinion as the only correct one, although it often lacks deep analysis or interdisciplinary verification. The media propagate the version that the M8.8 earthquake allegedly relieved the stress in the plates, and that no major seismic events should be expected in the coming years or even decades. But the mechanism of this earthquake is different, which means the scenario of events will be different. If timely planned degassing of the source, the Siberian magmatic plume, is not carried out, then within 5 years earthquakes comparable in magnitude to the Kamchatka, one will occur worldwide on a weekly basis. At the same time, the nature of volcanic activity will also change. Magma will begin to come from deeper sources, making eruptions unpredictable and much more destructive. Draw your own conclusions.